You know what's interesting? 3 of the biggest eyewear trends right now, the ones showing up on Fashion Week streets, in the pages of every style magazine, in boutique optical stores, they weren't designed with women over 60 in mind. And yet, they might be the most flattering frames this age group has seen in decades. That's not a coincidence I'm going to let slide past you, because here's what most eyewear conversations miss entirely. The way your face has changed since your 30s and 40s, the softening, the shift in skin tone, the way your hair color now frames everything differently. Those changes actually make you the ideal candidate for where fashion is heading right now. Thinner frames, rounder shapes, warmer, lighter tones. The industry moved in a direction that happens to suit you beautifully, and nobody told you. So today, we're fixing that. 3 trending frames. Why each one works, specifically, scientifically, for the mature face, and how to choose the version that's going to look best on you. Before we get into the frames themselves, I want to give you one piece of context that will make everything else in this video make more sense. After 60, a few things shift that directly affect how eyewear sits on your face and how it reads to the world. The cheeks lose a little volume, the brow line softens slightly, the jawline becomes less defined, and the skin around the eyes, the most delicate skin on your face, becomes thinner, which means heavy frames pressing against it draw more attention to that area, not less. Your skin tone may have shifted too, perhaps a little more sallow, a little less uniformly warm, which means frame colors that once looked vibrant against your complexion can now create a contrast that emphasizes shadow rather than light. And then there's your hair. If it's gone silver, white, or salt and pepper, the whole color relationship between your face and your accessories has changed. What harmonized beautifully with dark hair can feel harsh or disconnected against lighter tones. None of this is a problem to solve. It's simply information. And once you have it, you can use it, which is exactly what we're about to do. The first frame is the one I want you to pay closest attention to, because it might surprise you. The oversized round frame. Now, before you scroll past that in your mind, I know what you might be thinking. Big glasses, retro energy, maybe a little too much. But the version of this trend that's current right now is a completely different animal from the oversized frames of decades past. The rims are thinner, the proportions are more refined, the tones are softer, and what they do for a mature face is genuinely remarkable. Here's why the round shape matters so much. As the face ages naturally, most of what changes moves downward. The brow descends slightly, the cheeks soften, the outer corners of the eyes follow gravity just like everything else. A round frame creates an opposing energy. Its circular shape carries the eye upward and inward, back toward the eyes themselves, which instantly creates an impression of more openness, more alertness, more life in the expression. It's not about looking younger, it's about looking like yourself, the vibrant, present version of yourself, rather than a tired or diminished version. The lens size matters here. You want something generous enough to feel modern and make an intentional statement, but not so large that the frame extends below your cheekbone line. When frames dip that low, they cover the face rather than frame it, and that works against you. A lens diameter somewhere in the range of 48 to 54 millimeters typically hits the sweet spot. For frame color, this is where the styling gets interesting. Warm amber tortoiseshell, honey brown, soft caramel, blush transparent, warm champagne. These tones do something beautiful in the eye area. They create warmth and glow without harsh contrast, which is exactly what mature skin responds to. If you have silver or white hair, this family of warm tones creates a pairing that looks genuinely considered, like you chose these frames because you understood color, which you now do. If you have a rounder face and you're wondering whether this will add to that roundness, the answer is, choose a version with a slightly elongated oval lens rather than a perfectly geometric circle. The subtle vertical emphasis adds definition, and a well-defined bridge creates structure across the midface that balances beautifully. What to move away from? Very thick black rims on the round shape. The combination of a large circular frame in a heavy dark tone can feel visually dense in the eye area, and on mature skin, that density tends to emphasize shadow rather than brighten it. If you love a dark frame, a deep tortoise in warm brown undertones is a far more flattering version of that same impulse. If you're new here, welcome. This channel is made entirely for women over 60 who want real, specific, honest style advice. No vague generalities, no condescension, just the kind of conversation you'd have with a friend who happens to know this world inside out. If that sounds like what you've been looking for, subscribe and stay. There's a lot more where this came from. The second frame is the one that's been quietly taking over, and it's doing it beautifully, the thin metal wire frame. This is part of a much broader shift in fashion right now toward what's being called quiet luxury, the idea that restraint, quality, and subtlety communicate more sophistication than anything bold or obviously branded. In eyewear, that translates to the most refined minimal metal frames, ultra-fine rims, clean shapes, and an almost disappearing quality that lets your actual features become the focal point of your face. For women over 60, this is not just a trend, it's practically tailor-made for you. Here's what happens when you remove a thick, dark border from around your eyes. Light is able to move more freely across the face. Shadows that were being created and deepened by the contrast of heavy frames simply soften. The skin around the eye area looks smoother, more even, and your eyes, which are extraordinary, by the way, become what people notice rather than your glasses. The metal itself adds something too. A fine gold or rose gold rim at the edge of the face catches light in a way that's almost like wearing a very subtle highlighter. It creates a warmth and luminosity around the eyes that you simply cannot achieve with a thick or dark frame. For women with silver or white hair especially, warm gold or rose gold metal creates a pairing that feels genuinely beautiful. The metal picks up the light in your hair and gives the whole look a cohesion that feels effortless. When you're choosing a thin metal frame, look for an oval or gently rounded shape rather than a very rectangular one. The oval gives you a slightly taller lens, which maximizes the open, awake effect in the eye area. Some of the best versions of this frame have a subtle brow bar, a thin piece of metal across the top of the frame that sits just below the brow line. This tiny detail adds a gentle visual lift to the brow that works beautifully on mature faces where the natural brow has softened over time. For metal tones, warm gold and rose gold work for most skin tones with warm or neutral undertones. If your hair is a very cool icy silver or blue silver, clean brushed silver metal can be stunning. If you're somewhere in between, a two-tone frame, gold and silver together, is one of the most versatile options out there, and honestly one of the most elegant. The one thing to watch for is frames that are so thin they feel insubstantial or cheap. There's a difference between refined minimalism and a frame that's just flimsy. You want something that feels delicate but well made, a quality that you'll notice when you hold it in your hand. I want to pause here for a moment and ask you something genuinely. Which of these two styles so far feels more like you? Are you drawn to the presence and softness of the round tortoise shell, or does the quiet refinement of the thin metal frame feel more aligned with how you like to show up in the world? Drop it in the comments. I'd really love to know where you're landing. The third frame is the boldest of the three, and I want to make a distinction before we get into it, because it matters. When I say geometric statement frames are trending, I don't mean the very sharp, very angular, very dark styles that look like they belong on an architecture student. Those can be beautiful on certain faces, but they're not what we're talking about here. The geometric frames that are genuinely flattering for women over 60 are the ones with intention and warmth. Shapes like the hexagon, which sits perfectly between round and rectangular and captures the softness of one and the structure of the other, or the browline frame where a warm-toned bar sits just above the lens, echoing the natural browline and creating a subtle lift that's both architecturally interesting and genuinely flattering. Here's why a geometric frame can work so beautifully at this stage. It projects something that thin metal and round tortoise frames don't quite project in the same way: deliberateness. When a woman chooses a geometric frame and wears it well, it signals that she is fully engaged with her own style. She chose these with intention. She isn't disappearing into something safe or default. She made a choice that has a point of view. And that confidence, that visible sense of personal style, is one of the most genuinely youthful things a woman can project at any age. The hexagonal frame works because its 6 sides create a balance between the hard and the soft. The angles add modern definition, particularly useful for adding structure to the upper face. But the shape never feels aggressive or severe. In warm matte cognac, soft caramel, honey amber, or a warm olive tortoise, a hexagonal frame looks sophisticated and current in a way that feels very much like now. The browline style, sometimes called a clubmaster frame, though the modern version is considerably more refined, works because it concentrates visual weight at the top of the frame, right along the brow line. This draws the eye upward, lifts the expression, and creates a subtle architectural emphasis on the upper face that counteracts the natural downward drift that comes with age. Choose a version with a light or transparent lower rim and a warm-toned upper bar. The contrast should be subtle: warm cognac over blush transparent, or warm gold metal over a soft clear lens. Avoid very stark two-tones where a heavy black bar sits over a completely clear lens. That contrast can cut across the midface in a way that pulls the eye downward rather than up. Shade specifics for geometric frames: matte cognac, warm caramel, amber-tinted transparent, earthy terracotta brown, soft olive tortoise. These tones carry enough warmth to harmonize with mature skin and silver or white hair, and they have enough depth to give the frame the presence that a geometric shape calls for without tipping into harsh territory. One quick note on size: geometric frames that extend wider than your face create a very different effect than those that sit just within your natural face width. Keep the frame within your face width, or just at it, and you'll find the geometry reads as intentional style rather than costume. There's one more thing I want to share before we close. Something that applies across all 3 of these frames, and that most eyewear conversations overlook almost entirely. The color of your frame changes how your skin looks. Not just how the frame looks, how your skin looks. Warm-toned frames, the ambers, the rose golds, the champagnes, the honey tortoise shells, bring warmth toward the face. They create a glow in the eye area that makes the skin look more luminous and the eyes brighter. This is especially true in natural light, which is where most of us see ourselves and each other most often. Cooler, darker frames, stark black, cool navy, icy silver, can do the opposite on mature skin with warm or neutral undertones. They can create a contrast that makes the eye area look shadowed rather than bright. This doesn't mean you can never wear them. If they're part of your personal aesthetic and you love them, own that fully. But it's worth knowing that the frame you choose is doing something to your skin tone, not just sitting neutrally in front of it. The warmest piece of advice I can give you is this: when you try on frames, go outside, or stand near a window. Store lighting is almost always designed to make things look good. Natural light tells you the truth, and the truth is usually much more helpful. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you know this is a space that takes you seriously. Your style, your instincts, your sense of who you are. If someone in your life could use a video like this one, a friend, a sister, someone who's been wearing the same frames for 15 years without really thinking about it, share this with her. Sometimes the most useful thing we can do for someone we love is hand them a new way of seeing something. And if you haven't subscribed yet, this is a good moment. There's a lot more on this channel that I think you'll find genuinely useful and genuinely yours. Glasses aren't just a prescription delivery system. They're the first thing people see when they look at your face. They sit at the center of your expression, your warmth, your presence. And when you choose them with a little knowledge behind you, understanding why certain shapes lift, why certain tones glow, why certain styles create openness rather than weight, the difference in how you feel when you look in the mirror is real. You don't have to opt out of what's current. You don't have to settle for frames that feel sensible rather than beautiful. Some of the best eyewear fashion has to offer right now is genuinely, specifically made for the face you have today. That's not a consolation prize, that's just the truth. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I mean that. Now go try on some frames, and this time you'll know exactly what you're looking for.